Yeah, I'm sorry about that American accent, but what to do? I don't know how to change it. Okay, so we'll start. Vikramji, you are familiar with the basic meditation posture, right?
Yes.
Kind of. Okay, so I don't need to explain it all to all of you. So just be comfortable and upright, and of course, the main characteristics of the posture are a sense of stillness, a sense of ease and relaxation. But of course, together with that, a sense of being very awake, alert. So the relaxation is very important, not to get uptight and stressed, but that shouldn't lead to being, too loose, because then we can become sloppy and drowsy. So good balance between being relaxed and being attentive and alert. And that's a very good formula for the whole of our life, I guess, to not be uptight, but to be awake and aware. That's will stand us in good stead wherever we are, whether we're sitting or standing. So that's the basic posture. And of course, some of the details. To have the chin tucked in a little bit can be useful, the back of the neck stretched, eyes slightly open or closed if that's easier. Arms relaxed by the side, small gap between the torso and the arms to allow air to circulate, hands in the lap or on the knees or thighs. If you're sitting on a chair or sofa with your feet on the ground, then make sure both the soles of the feet are on the ground. That gives a good sense of balance and stability. So we're combining a sense of stability and dignity in this posture, together with a sense of openness. The upright back and the self-confidence and stability that we need to proceed. We spoke a lot about that yesterday, how much the spiritual warrior needs confidence, very strong confidence, which some might consider bordering on arrogance or pride, but of course it's not that kind of selfish pride or arrogant pride. It's a very healthy but powerful self-confidence, which we need in order to work with our minds and in order to be of benefit to others, which is the main purpose of the Mahayana Buddhist path, which this text is revealing to us. And the front of the body open, because our job is to communicate and benefit others. So it won't work if we are hunched over or our heart is sort of protected or covered. So the front of the body, chest is open without being, without being pushed out or like a soldier on parade, not like that, but naturally open, open-hearted quality there to the posture, which is very important indeed. Heartfelt communication with ourselves and with others is a major component of the path, you could say. Without that, nothing can happen. So we have to be, in a sense, more and more transparent and open with ourselves, that kind of self-honesty, and then with others, and that will reduce a lot of the contradictions and hypocrisy that otherwise we may find in our life and so forth. A sort of gap between our aspirations and our actions. Yeah. Okay, so let there be that sense of ease and openness and stability. So on that basis, we can develop develop the motivation for the practice. Motivation means, we don't start any practice without a very powerful intention, positive intention that prevents the practice from just, starting off in a kind of loose or wishy-washy fashion. We have somewhere, we're aiming at something positive, you could say, very, very positive and vast. The vastness is connected with the fact that we are willing to extend our interest, you could say, beyond ourselves, and to take a real interest in others and what they need, how we could help them be free from their pain and so forth, rather than being so totally self-absorbed and self-centered that we do not even notice or consider other people properly. So we expand, in a sense, our vision. We expand our circle of interest and empathy. And when we actually, open our eyes and hearts and look carefully at what's happening for ourselves and in others in this world, it's hard not to feel very sad and upset even at how much people suffer and how much they create problems for themselves through their ignorance, their narrow-mindedness, their sheer, arrogance and self-centeredness and so forth, through their greed, through their hatred. And all of this becomes more and more sort of sad and poignant because, in fact, as we all know, everybody wants to be happy. So it's kind of really strange and upsetting that after all these centuries, millennia, we still don't know how to be happy, how to create harmony. We want one thing, but we're creating causes for the opposite, constantly creating causes for dissatisfaction and struggle and conflict. And anything can remind us of that. I was reminded of it today, of course, on a larger scale, when they reported these latest border skirmish, Chinese and Indian soldiers hitting each other with sticks and canes and so forth. I mean, it's so stupid. It's so childish in one way. Why would adult people behave in that way? Don't they know that everybody wants happiness, don't want to suffer? I mean, what is going on? How much we are driven by ideological and other territorial factors, ignoring our basic humanity. Sometimes one wonders, when all this nonsense will stop. And of course, it won't stop until we have developed the intelligence that understands that we are actually united with others. We are interdependent with others at a very deep level. And that, that has to form the basis of our relationships with the world. So through that understanding, compassion can come. But without that understanding, thinking of others as totally other and separate, and somehow either enemies or strangers or friends, that kind of categorization is destroying our world. So anyway, we see, in other words, if we open our eyes, that beings are in turmoil. And we have behaved so badly, so stupidly, that we are also destroying our planet. We're the only species that destroys the foundation of our existence. No other species has done that. Other extinctions happened because of other events which were uncontrollable. But even though we have the science, the intelligence, and hundreds of scientists, thousands even, telling us what's wrong, we still don't mend our ways. So looking at this, one feels very sad. Angry too sometimes, but very sad. So this is the motivation then has to be, may I develop my mind, my intelligence, my compassion to the extent that I can actually be of some benefit in this world and not just further contribute to the mess, to the confusion. But to do that, of course, we need to stabilize our own minds. Yeah, stabilize our mind and develop insight. And on that basis, then we can develop a very powerful loving kindness and compassion. Without the wisdom, without the stability of mind, it is not going to be powerful enough. As this chapter we're about to study will show us very clearly. So develop this intention that we're going to investigate, discuss this great text together in order to build up our reserves, our potential of wisdom and loving kindness, together with a more stable mind. And with that, we may be of some use for this world. Otherwise, it's questionable how much we can really do anything if our mind is distracted and not trained. Nobody can do a job well, whether it's being a gardener or a bus driver or anything, if they're not trained, right? So why should we think that on the spiritual path, we don't need to be trained? We need to be trained extremely well. We need to tame this monkey mind, mad elephant mind. So we start with the breath awareness practice as part of our skillful method to work with this unruly mind and make it a little bit more centered, stable, less distracted, so that we are able to use that as a very powerful foundation for the wisdom and compassion that we need to generate. So let's sit quietly for a while, being aware of breath, letting a sense of relaxation be there with the out breath, especially, sense of dissolving there. And when the mind gets distracted and goes off into conceptual thinking, we recognize that and let it go. Gently let it go. Come back to the breath, but in a gentle way, not in a uptight, fixated way, a calm, gentle awareness of the breath. Okay. Okay. So I think we can see from that short meditation, short practice, how scattered our mind can be. Here, there, everywhere. Hard to stay on one point for long. So that's why we have to work with that. Of course, we can be aware of whatever is happening, and awareness is very important. But if our mind is constantly, going hither and thither, it will be difficult to engage in very deep, profound, sort of penetrative meditations. Just won't be the focus that we need. Okay, so now let's begin this very, very, very important chapter called Meditation, chapter 8 of Shantideva's text, which you have, which was sent you, which has been sent to you. The text is part of the posting. Do you have the text with you, Vikramji, on your smartphone? Did I send you the posting for? Are you on one of our WhatsApp groups? Sorry, I've muted you all. I can't hear you. Yeah. Do you have the text?
Yes, sir. Kabirji, good evening.
You don't have
it. I have.
Oh. You should all have it if you are on our posting, then you should have this text. Vikramji, do you have it?
Can I post this?
Neeraj, you don't have it? Why not? You're part of
I have in my computer. I can post it. Okay.
Good. Okay. Vikramji, do you have the text? You have the posting that we sent? Are you on our Tushita WhatsApp group? Yes or no? No. Okay, I thought I'd put you on our WhatsApp group. Okay. Well, Sagar Bhai has just posted it, but let me send it to Vikram.
I am also posting it.
Take it. Yeah. Okay. I've sent it to you as well. So you should have that. If you scroll down to the bottom of that, the text is there. Okay. So chapter.
Posted the PDF.
Excuse me?
Posted the PDF book.
Acha. Good. Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Okay. Good. All right. So even if you didn't have it, it wouldn't matter too much. I read out the verse. Sorry. So let's read the first verse. I'm going to use both translations, the Stephen Batchelor, which I think you have there, and the one that is used by Pema Chodron, whose commentary I'm looking at. Okay, so I'll be weaving between those two translations. Okay. After cultivating diligence, which was the previous chapter, enthusiasm, diligence, after cultivating that, Shantideva was saying, set your mind to concentration. Having developed enthusiasm in this way, I should place my mind in concentration. But the person whose mind is distracted dwells between the fangs of disturbing conceptions. Even if we were just to try and follow the advice of this verse, one verse, it would be so wonderful. This is really the key to a lot of this work. We may develop enthusiasm, we may develop a whole bunch of good qualities, but if our mind is distracted, then we are prone to be under the sway, easily become, go under the sway of the disturbing emotions, anger, attachment, greed, pride, arrogance, envy. All of these disturbing emotions will easily take over if our mind is not focused. As they say, what is it? The idle mind is the devil's workshop, that kind of thing. Idle mind meaning a mind that is going here, there, and everywhere without control. Okay, so are we clear about this, the language of this? Let me go a bit further here. In the stages of the path teachings, it's made very, very clear that if we do not have wisdom, we will not be able to understand reality properly and who we are, how the world exists. Without that, we cannot be free of samsara, let alone be of great benefit to others. Now, that wisdom itself depends on having a focused mind, a concentrated mind, which of course itself depends on having a relatively wholesome way of life, where we are not going around being idiots and harming ourselves and others and behaving stupidly. So based on the proper ethical foundation, we can develop this state of concentration. And that is the only way we're going to be able to develop the level of insight, wisdom that we need. We might say, well, it's not hard to understand a lot of Buddhism, the basic teachings. It's not hard. Why would I need a very, very accurate, a very focused mind? It's like saying, we have instruments. We have 19th or 20th century instruments to perform operations. Why should I have a laser? Why should I use a laser? Well, of course, this is not a very good analogy, because perfectly good operations can be conducted or have been in the past with 20th century instruments, and lasers came in later, and they're proving to be very useful, I'm sure, in many operations and so forth. And robotics and so forth apparently are used a lot in modern surgery. But as far as the dharma goes, we cannot say that an untrained, unfocused mind is going to be able to engage deeply enough with the teachings on wisdom. That the untrained mind, the unfocused mind cannot go deeply enough to eradicate the ignorance that is so deeply seated in our minds, so deeply seated since beginningless time. We have this ignorance grasping onto this idea of myself as some kind of unitary, singular, independent, inherent entity here, which owns the body and mind, and which thinks I, me, mine. We're not going to be able to crack that one with the kind of distracted mind that we have at the moment. So therefore, this developing a very focused mind is extremely important. Otherwise, we will be caught up in all kinds of distractions, and our attempt to develop compassion and wisdom will be a joke. Yeah. So here, the teachings are very similar to what we were taught in chapter 5 of the text, which is the chapter on guarding alertness. This part of the meditation chapter is reminiscent of that, is recalling that. Yeah. So the point of all these examples that we're going to have now is that the untamed mind makes us suffer. And it recalls one of those very basic 4-line stanzas that is often repeated, is often put on the wall. Well, it's put on the wall of our Gompa at Tushita Center in Dharamsala very clearly, that strive to do good, cease to do evil, tame your own mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. So this is a very important point. To, tame your mind, tame your own mind, tame our minds. This is the basic teaching of the Buddha. Without doing that, everything else is really is a joke. So if we're not engaging in taming our mind, then we're actually not practicing the Dharma correctly. We are being very dilettante about it. We're really not treating it seriously. So we need to develop this. And the later part of the chapter will show how, we can train our mind, we can transform our mind through the skillful methods of exchanging ourselves with others, these practices to develop, the great compassion, Bodhichitta. But again, those also depend on having a certain amount of focus and, freedom from the disturbing emotions, which are constantly ready to pounce on us if we are not aware, if we're not attentive. Remember that verse in the last chapter, which is talking about how if a warrior were to drop their sword, they would be so, they would quickly pick up their sword again. They would be intent on retrieving the sword so they could continue the battle. So similarly, if we find we are losing our mindfulness, then we would have to quickly, pick up the, retrieve, restore our mindfulness so as not to be caught up by the afflictive emotions. Yeah, this is very, very important. Very important. Okay. What's happening in the next verse? Now, the next verse shows us how we can get out of this dilemma of having the mind dwelling between the fangs of the disturbing conceptions. However, he said, through solitude of body and mind, no distractions will occur. Therefore, I should forsake the worldly life and completely discard distorted conceptions. Or the other translation, in solitude, the mind and body are not troubled by distraction. Therefore, leave this worldly life, totally abandon mental wandering. Totally abandon mental wandering. Okay. Yep. So, this is mentioned again and again in the text. It's mentioned at the beginning of so many teachings that without solitude, we're really going to be constantly caught up in the dramas of worldly life. And let's face it, worldly life can be a big drama, right? You are familiar with the dramas of worldly life. All of us should be familiar with them, especially those of us who have families, like children and wives and husbands and all of that, and pet dogs and property tax and all sorts of things happening. So, and all kinds of, nonsense going on between friends and relations, and having to overcome, enemies and people who are disturbing you and so on and so forth. All of this is there, right? We don't have to think about, what is a worldly distraction. We are well aware of all of these, I think. So the worldly life does not leave much time for practice, right? Even the Buddha, even Siddhartha had to leave the palace to really understand, get to the bottom of what was disturbing him, trying to find out the, cause of birth, sickness, old age, and death, and so forth. He had to leave. he had to leave the palace, right? He had a very wonderful, happy, comfortable worldly life with all of his worldly desires amply satisfied. But that was not good enough for him. He had to leave. He realized he had to leave. He could not attain the insight he needed while he was under the, you could say, the sway of his father, who had created this golden cage for him in the palace. So we have got all kinds of cages, maybe a metal cage, copper cage, or it could be even worse than that, but we've all created cages for ourselves, right? So we need to see that and contemplate accordingly. Now, Pema Chodron, in her commentary, she mentions three things when we're looking at this section of the text. She says it's helpful to remember three topics. One, she uses a Tibetan word, dunzi, which refers to wasting life with useless distractions. Okay, so one is wasting life with useless distractions. Of course, what is useless, what is meaningful, that will depend from person to person, but from a dharmic point of view, anything that distracts us from the path of developing renunciation, great compassion, and wisdom is a distraction, is a useless distraction, which is helping to fuel our disturbing emotions. Anything like that is a useless distraction. Then there is connected with that what she calls again using a Tibetan word, shenpa, which is this kind of getting hooked, attached, the kind of, this is attachment, the experience of being attached and hooked by experience, like a fish being hooked on a on the what's it called? Yeah, on a hook. You know, there's a tasty tidbit on the hook, and the fish goes for it, and next thing it knows, it's struggling for breath on dry land. So we have all these experiences of being hooked by sensory experiences, drawn out of ourselves, out of the peace of ourselves, you could say, by the five senses, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, touch, and of course also the mental sense, because we have thoughts, we have memories, we have expectations, we have many images we can move around in our mind. You know, we don't need a film or a film set or anything physical. We can do so much just with our mind, with our wild imagination. So we get hooked on various things that we get attached to, and we also of course get hooked to our aversions, to things we don't like. Hooked in the sense that we get hooked to being averse to things, to getting angry, to pushing things away. And and then the other factor that is being talked about here is how we can actually, how this leads to a sense of weariness, where she puts it heartbreak, with this cycle of longing and attachment and aversion and ignorance, and it's so exhausting and wearying. So she speaks about heartbreak or nausea with samsara. So these three things, being distracted, wasting our lives with useless distraction, getting hooked, the experience of being hooked again and again, whether it's by something small like a pakoda or a jalebi, but again and again being hooked, attached to these things, or hooked to something, some big ambition or a person or whatever it is, an ideology, we can get hooked, and therefore, that becomes problematic. And then we can, the other thing, this leads us to potentially being sick and tired, totally fed up, disgusted with this state of affairs, this kind of life, where we are totally like a cow with a, ring in its nose and being, tethered by that, being pulled here and there because we have this ring in our nose. So there's no control from our side. We're totally at the mercy of outside factors. Of course, it's our mind which is causing the problem, but our mind gets drawn out, and so therefore we become the slave of circumstances. Yeah, and not just outer, but inner circumstances. Emotions, feelings come up, and we totally buy into them. We don't just watch and allow them to pass. We take them so seriously, we buy into them, get hooked by them, and then we're in trouble. So when Shantideva tells us to leave this worldly life in this second verse, he's addressing how attached, how hooked we get to the things of this world, how we need time, we need space to be free of these things that hook us. We need solitude. We need to be free of these distractions. You know, after a while, we get so fed up with being hooked again and again that this weariness begins to really get at us, and it doesn't leave us. So then we realize we have to do something about this. You know, we become weary, and this is a very good sign, of course. To really become weary with samsara is a very good sign. You know, it shows that we're actually beginning to understand things better, that things are impermanent, that they are tainted, you know, that they don't have any intrinsic self from their own side. You know, we're beginning to understand that. We're beginning to get a feeling for what nirvana might mean, you know, and what Buddhahood might mean. So then we have this healthy weariness towards, you know, this vicious circle. It's like, you know, someone who's becoming wise, they just realize that their old ways of behaving and the people they used to associate with and so on and so forth, it just is a total waste of time. It's just leading to, you know, nowhere. So then they begin to change, you know. So outer solitude can become a support for inner solitude. Yeah. So Pema Chodron comments here that we shouldn't deceive ourselves. We have to realize that we must take a break from our busy lives. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You might say, oh, no, well, I can take 5-10 minutes in the morning and I can do my meditation while I'm driving to work. It's not going to work very well. The kind of depth of quietness and deep meditation that we need to transform the mind, it's not going to happen in our busy daily lives to the extent that we need it. It's not to say we cannot do any meditation or any practice of awareness in our daily life. Of course we can. And it's very useful to do so. But on occasion, we need to be completely take a break, completely get away. You know. However, you know, short periods every day is very helpful. That is helpful. But longer periods are better, much better. Now in verse number 3, he goes more deeply into things, and this reminds us of some of the early verses of that other great Bodhisattva text, the 37 Practices of the Bodhisattva by Gyaltse Tomezangpo. Yeah, worldly life is not forsaken. Why? Because of attachment to people, due to craving for material gain and the like. Therefore, I should entirely forsake these things, for this is the way in which the wise behave. So we have this constant refrain in some of the texts between what are called uninstructed worldlings and the instructed person. So the uninstructed worldling is someone who has not really done anything so far to tame their minds. They're uninstructed. They are, you know, like wild. We're like wild people who haven't received yet the proper instructions, or let alone, you know, putting them into effect. And then there's wise people, the mature people, who are the, you know, ones who have been instructed and who are beginning to genuinely practice the path. Yeah, they're becoming wise through the experience of practicing the path. Yeah. So because of loved ones, desire for gain, disgust with worldly life doesn't arise. These then are the first things to renounce. Such are the reflections of a prudent man. This is the alternative translation. So, mm, so you see, this seeking happiness in outer things, that's what everyone is doing. Everyone is doing that, whether it's Kentucky Fried Chicken or a partner or a movie or, whatever it is. It's we seek happiness in outer things or some possession that could provide the happiness, the joy that is lacking in our lives. Yeah. So it's not loved ones or objects per se that are bad. You can't extinguish people and the objects of this world. It's pointless. It's ridiculous. But it's our tendency to become addicted, to be attached. That's what we have to work with. Yeah. How can we give up the kind beings without whom we cannot survive? But we have to give up attachment to them. With that, with the space that comes from that, maybe we'll be able to help them more. But right now we're attached. We, feel we need a lot of things from others. We rely on them. We depend on them in an unhealthy way. So we have placed unrealistic hope in outer things and in people. And how often we become disillusioned. Yeah, whether it's with the new car or the new scooter we buy or and then of course people get into partnerships with tremendous hope, tremendous longing, tremendous hope, make all kinds of vows, right, in church or in wherever or however they do it. um, and how sad it is, how awful it becomes for people when they cannot live together for one reason or another. Misunderstandings occur, painful experiences occur, and then the next thing those people are at each other's throats and even can kill each other. This also happens. So it shows how feeling that we can get satisfaction and happiness from anything outside of ourselves primarily is totally unrealistic, is not the um, understanding of a wise person at all. So this wishful thinking has to be understood and gotten rid of. We have to uh, renounce that kind of thinking. If it means going away for a while and doing more and more inner study and reflection, solitary retreats even for a few days or week, or some people do longer, much longer, then that may be the way to go. But until we see the shortcomings of worldly life and have a more balanced attitude towards it, then we are just asking for trouble. And we definitely won't be able to practice this Bodhisattva path, where we are attempting to become spiritual warriors who can really be of benefit to others. We can't even be of benefit to ourselves, and we are totally caught up with the disturbing emotions. How on earth do we expect to be of great benefit to others and guide other people? It's just a joke, becomes a joke. Yeah. Let's take a 2-minute break. Just need to take a 2-minute break, okay, ladies and gentlemen? 2-minute break, or 3 minutes even. Okay, thank you. So, I think these are some of the hardest teachings really to swallow, because they're totally going against the grain of our life so far. Our lives, I should say, not just this life. We're so habitually addicted to certain kinds of behavior and to attachment, craving for loved ones, material gain, and so forth. The 8 worldly dharmas, in other words, that we look at several times, being caught up with pleasure and pain, wanting pleasure, not wanting pain, wanting gain, not wanting loss, wanting praise, not wanting blame, and wanting a good reputation, not wanting a bad reputation. We're so caught up with that. It's so important for us. If we have the gain, if we have the pleasure, we have the praise, the good reputation, we're happy. If we have the opposite, we're unhappy. So unhappy. It really becomes a big deal for us. So we're caught up with that right now. And yeah. Now, what is the way out? Having understood, verse 4, having understood that disturbing conceptions are completely overcome by superior insight, endowed with calm abiding, first of all, I should search for calm abiding. This is achieved through the genuine joy of those unattached to worldly life. So the other translation, penetrative insight joined with calm abiding utterly eradicates afflicted states. Knowing this, first search for calm abiding, found by those who joyfully renounce the world. Okay, so calm abiding is shamatha. Superior insight is vipassana, or vipassana in Pali, or vipassana in Sanskrit, vipassana, seeing clearly. They have to come together. We cannot engage in deep, penetrative, profound insight into the nature of reality if the mind is not very calm and stable. So he says, first, search for calm abiding. There's whole chapters on this, of course, on how to develop calm abiding, but some of the main factors are that we need, first of all, to have tamed our mind already to a certain extent so that we have few desires, we have more contentment, we're willing to settle for a simple kind of existence and life. This is if we want to develop a good kind of calm mind, maybe not the fully qualified calm mind yet, or because there are 9 stages, it is said, of calm abiding, and if we get to the 9th and beyond, then we're really something amazing. But even if we get to the 3rd or 4th level, apparently it's very, very, very useful. So we can only do that if we have certain qualifications. One of the main ones is to have less desire for things, less desire for moving around and being busy, contentment, a basic contentment we need. We need to have had instructions on the practice of calm abiding. We have to know what the challenges are that can arise and how to deal with them. How to deal with a mind that is distracted very much, how to deal with a mind that gets excited, how to deal with a mind that gets dull and sleepy. We need, then we need, kind of we need proper conditions like a quiet place to practice, away from, everyday concerns. This is if we're doing it seriously. If we really want to develop a quite good level of this calm abiding, then we need all these factors, the proper teachings on it from a qualified person, the proper circumstances, quiet place where we will not be distracted by people, and yet we'll need people to either cook food for us or at least bring the provisions that we ourselves cook. But we are not allowed in such kind of practice to engage with lots of people. That just becomes distracting. So we need that. One person who's now become very famous scholar and so forth, Alan Wallace, he once came to the center I was studying at in England many years ago when he was still a monk. And he was talking to us about this kind of shamatha, calm abiding retreat that he had done in the hills above Dharamsala. And he said that, if I wanted any kind of sort of distraction, if I needed any break from my meditation sessions, in between meditation sessions, the most I would do would be to go for a quiet little walk in the woods, not with a book, not with any, with a Walkman. In those days, it was Walkmans, or maybe even Walkmans hadn't come in then. Just a quiet walk in the woods. That's it. That's the amount of entertainment one could have. And of course, that's not really entertainment. He would mindfully walk a little bit in the woods near his hut. So no extra material to read apart from maybe some texts connected with the practice. Certainly no novels or anything else like that. Simple food, maybe not eating more than once or twice a day. Many people who do this practice, they wouldn't be having an evening meal, or if so, very, very light. A very simple existence, focused on the practice of calm abiding. Dedicated to that. And, really dedicated people spend 6 to 9 months on that kind of retreat, not going away from their hut. They would have a boundary which they have set mentally, that they won't go beyond that boundary, so that they don't get close to, habitations or, other houses and so forth. Of course, if they're in an area where there are other meditators, that can be very good. There can be that kind of environment of meditation. Yeah. And there are places like this above Dharamsala. If you go for a walk in the woods above our center, Tushita Center in Dharamsala, MacLeodganj, then you can find a colony of people who are doing a lot of practice. A very quiet part of the woods. Yeah, so that kind of place is good, and that is where one can practice. So, of course, if one takes one's desires and aversions and attachments with us, then of course it's not going to work. So, of course, the most important thing there is not just the outer environment, but the inner environment of the intention to practice based on a weariness with samsara, with the world, the ordinary way of the mind, let's say. We're not rejecting people, we're not rejecting the world, but we're rejecting the undisciplined mind, you could say. So one needs a strong intention to do that. One needs to recognize the benefits of having a very calm, stable mind. How then we'll be able to deeply understand wisdom, and how that is the key to destroying the root of our pain, the root of our suffering. So that's why we need, as it says here, this is achieved through the genuine joy of those unattached to worldly life. So to become unattached to worldly life to a sufficient degree, that in itself is quite a task. Before you get to your meditation hut, you need a certain amount of detachment or lack of attachment to worldly life. Otherwise, you won't be able to stay in that hut or in that quiet place without going crazy or without just running down the hill very quickly, back to so-called worldly life, civilization. Yeah, all of our attachments. Yeah. So this is what we need. And to cultivate this kind of stability, we need the solitude. It's not going to happen otherwise. We need solitude. It's even said for those who are really serious on the conditions they used to have in Tibet or in other parts of perhaps in the Himalayas, is that there shouldn't even be the sound of too many, animals or birds, because, you shouldn't be in a bird reservoir, bird sanctuary where there's a lot of birds making a lot of noise, because this kind of practice, initially at least, one needs a lot of quiet, very quiet environment to practice. Later, when of course the mind becomes habituated and very powerful, then one could practice anywhere, but not at the beginning stage. No way, they say. Then we need complete quiet as much as possible. What happens if we don't do this? Verse 5. Because of the obsession that one transient being has for other transient beings, they will not see their beloved ones again for many thousands of lives. The other translation, beings, brief, ephemeral, who fiercely cling to what is also passing, will catch no glimpse of happiness for many thousands of their future lives. So it's not just beloved ones, but anything that we're attached to. If we fiercely cling to things, to our body, to other people's bodies, to reputation, to, this, that, and the other, then Shantideva is saying that we will not see happiness. We'll not see happiness in this and many thousands of future lives. The grasping, craving mind, he's saying, just cannot experience satisfaction and happiness. And I think we can see this. We can see this quite clearly. Well, that is open to discussion, of course. And thus their minds will have no joy. Let's read the bachelor first. Not seeing them, I am unhappy, and my mind cannot be settled in equipoise. Even if I see them, there's no satisfaction. And as before, I'm tormented by craving. So if we see the beings we love, if we, can even enjoy those objects of our desire, then actually there's no lasting satisfaction. And mind will not be in equipoise, and I'll be tormented by craving. So if I don't engage with the objects of my desire, I'm unhappy. And if I engage with them, then again, I'm unhappy. There's no real satisfaction, and one becomes tormented by craving. When beings who are like us, who are impermanent, cling to things that are equally impermanent, it's a setup for dissatisfaction. It's a setup for dissatisfaction. This is not a particularly religious statement, says Pema Chodron. This is just, we can just see that everything is like that. We can see that things are constantly changing, including ourselves, right? So since impermanence defies our attempts to hold on to anything, outer pleasures can never bring lasting joy. Even when we manage to get short-term gratification, it doesn't heal our longing for happiness. It only enhances our attachment, the Shenpa. Zigar Kongtrul Rinpoche, one particular Lama, says, and of course the teachings are full of sayings like this, trying to find lasting happiness from relationships or possessions is like drinking salt water to quench your thirst. If through being attached to living beings, I'm completely obscured from perfect reality, my disillusionment with cyclic existence perishes, and in the end, I'm tortured by sorrow. So by being attached It obscures reality like clouds obscure the sun. And we will not develop the weariness we need to develop towards cyclic existence. We keep on trying again and again and again to be satisfied, to have our, our craving satisfied. But in the end, what happens? We're tortured by sorrow because we cannot get what we want, really want, the deep satisfaction from outer objects, from people and things. It's just not possible. It's only possible through developing the mind, developing the inner bliss, the inner palace of bliss, which is our body and mind. Cannot come from outside. Yeah, of course, some can come from outside, but it's very short-lived. And it leads, as I said, to more and more longing, more and more attachment. Yeah. Okay. Right. By thinking only of them, meaning outer objects and people, this life will pass without any meaning. Furthermore, impermanent friends and relatives will even destroy the dharma, which leads to permanent liberation. My thoughts are all for them, the other translation. By degrees, my life is frittered away. My family and friends all fade and pass, for whom the doctrine is destroyed, that leads to indestructibility. So the doctrine, the dharma that can lead to ultimate truth, to indestructibility, to Buddhahood, that is destroyed by this attachment to family and friends. So driving the point home again and again is one of Shantideva's teaching methods. These verses say once again that when we long and crave for other beings, a veil is cast upon the perfect truth. In other words, this craving blinds us to the actual unbiased nature of our minds, of our pure minds. And thus, any kind of wholesome weariness with samsara is destroyed, melts away. Nausea with doing the same thing over and over is called wholesome disillusion, because it motivates us to break our habits. By contrast, ordinary disillusionment is ego-based disgust. I don't like this, I don't want that. It keeps our habits very firmly in place. So Shantideva says that when seeking security in outer things clouds our perception of the fleeting, uncertain nature of reality, our longing to wake up may well evaporate. And then sooner or later, it's too late to wake up because there comes the sting of pain. In other words, we die. So even hundreds of years later, meaning 1300 years almost after Shantideva lived, we can easily understand when he says that my thoughts are all for them. We're always thinking about others, but in this wrong way, attachment way, not because we want to benefit them, but we think about them, craving loved ones, family, the people we like and dislike, constantly preoccupied with that. So we fritter away whole lifetimes preoccupied with these objects of our craving and disdain. Meanwhile, all these family and friends just pass away. They fade and pass away, leaving us sadly with only a well-entrenched craving habit, the habit of craving and longing, wanting. And then, sadder still, we lose any passion we have for liberation, for renunciation of samsara. We just get stuck, we get stuck like a wasp or a fly getting stuck.
But Kabir ji, some Mahayana masters are delaying their nirvana. to help the sentiment beings.
Of course, of course. Yeah,
They are coming again and again.
that's different. But they are not delaying nirvana because they are attached in the wrong way to sentient beings. They are helping sentient beings out of compassion, not out
This
of
is the
attachment.
code of Mahayana practice.
Haji?
This is code of Mahayana practice. Third
Yes.
part, they believe in nirvana completely.
Yeah, there's no contradiction with what he's saying here, of course. We have to have detachment before we can benefit beings properly. Yeah, we cannot be wrongly attached and craving for these outer things, right? The Bodhisattva cannot be craving. The Bodhisattva has to have very strong renunciation on the one hand, but also tremendous love and compassion for beings, wishing to help them be free. Yeah.
His Holiness is Bodhisattva, or yeah, he's a living Buddha.
Right. Right. Verse 9 says, if I behave in the same way as the childish, I shall certainly proceed to lower realms. And if I'm led there by those unequal to the noble ones, what is the use of entrusting myself to the childish? The other translation says, if I act like those who are like children, sure it is that I shall fall to lower states. So why keep company with infants and go with them in ways so far from virtue? One moment they are friends, the next they are bitter enemies. Even pleasant things arouse their discontent. Worldly people, hard it is to please them. One moment they're friends, next instant they're enemies. Since they become angry, even in joyful situations, it's difficult to please ordinary people. We can stop there with the text and have some discussion if you wish. This is very powerful material, isn't it? Very difficult. Very difficult.
Very powerful works, very influential.
So,
they were masters, Mahayana masters.
Yes. So
when Nalanda University introduced the Shantideva course in Buddhism and in Nagarjuna course in Sanatan Dharma, the RSS influence, they chosen Nagarjuna in Sanatan Dharma.
Yes, maybe. Yes, I'm sure Nalanda University now is pale reflection of the real thing. Just
they have influence of their they have teach the Bhatkalji.
Anyway, let's not talk about politics or what people are doing wrong. Let's look at our own minds and check if we are drinking salt water or if we are drinking proper R2O or whatever it is. What kind of water are we drinking? Water that makes us more thirsty or water that quenches our thirst? This is the thing. Are we switching our minds or not? That's the real question. Are we taming our minds or not?
Kabirji.
Hello. Who's that?
Hello. Anushri.
Oh, Oscar Wilde from the wilds of Andhra Pradesh. Yes. Hello.
Samson name is.
So I was saying that at one point you read that verse now that like when I impermanent being attach myself to equally impermanent beings, that is the recipe for something. So can you reread that?
Yes.
Like when I am impermanent, I don't know, I'm not able to find that verse. Was it from the book or from somewhere else?
By thinking only of them, verse 8, this life will pass without any meaning. Furthermore, impermanent friends and relatives will even destroy the dharma. which leads to permanent liberation. So the commentary was saying how, how ridiculous it is that we who are impermanent are attached to other things that are impermanent, thinking that they're going to give us lasting happiness. How foolish can we be? That's what is being meant. Verse 8. And that is echoed in verse 10. One moment they're friends, next instant they become enemies. I'm sure we all have this experience. We get very close to someone, very friendly with them, exchanging messages, WhatsApp messages, and doing things together. And then due to something quite minor usually, then those people become enemies. We don't even, we don't talk to them anymore. So this is like impermanence, right? People get married and then they go to court and they have long legal battles, destroying their happiness, and if they have children, making their children's lives more painful and so forth. So this is what the situation is. Yeah. And of course, very hard to make people happy, he's saying. People can become angry even in very pleasant situations just due to the garbage in their minds, their disturbing emotions. And it can be very difficult. Very difficult.
Meditation regularly.
Just a moment. 8 minutes, मैं बोल रहा हूँ. So it's very difficult to please ordinary people. This is what he's saying. Very difficult to please ordinary people, isn't it? Yeah. हाँ नीरज जी, क्या कह रहे हैं?
Practicing meditation regularly, it can eradicate all the problems of mental anxiety, tensions. 5 years, 7 years after. Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah, if one does it.
I have experienced even. I some dakat, he hit me on my head 36 times through their butts and revolver to snatch my things. I got, but to my meditation practice now, I managed. I couldn't got down and managed to escape. It was full of 36 stitches I got in the Dwarka. When I go to help someone, they snatch.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Without meditation, proper meditation, that is.
That meditation helped me.
Be free. Yeah. Good example.
This is my personal experience. Sometimes if you go for help some others in night, you will be in problem. Though I have just give them lifting them anyone, it is very difficult for me.
Can I ask something? This is Nitya.
I guess so. Yes.
What time?
Yes.
I can also keep it for tomorrow or day after. That's okay.
Tomorrow, day after, I wouldn't do that. Do it now. There's time now.
Okay. Well, these verses got me also thinking about then what is the point of human connection, right? Connection can be extremely healing. But I suppose what Shantideva is saying is the wrong sort of connection in which you are craving for someone or dependent on someone for your happiness. Is that right? But then it's such a fine line between connection and, like having a sort of like a deep connection with someone and then not, sort of guarding your feelings at the same time, or being aware of your feelings at the same time to not get too attached.
Asking or making a statement? Both things.
I'd love to hear from you. That's kind of a statement, but I'm not sure I know how to do both.
I think you answered the question already in the way you asked it, actually. Of course, when we are masters of our own mind, then we can, we don't buy into all of the thoughts and feelings that we have, and if we are on the other hand also generating very genuine loving kindness and compassion and patience and so forth, then our connections with others will be more healing and beneficial, and we'll be able to put up with a lot of nonsense from others, even our most close and intimate partners or whatever, So at least we will benefit a lot, and hopefully the other person will also benefit. But until we're at that state, yes, all human relationships are fraught with pitfalls, aren't they? It's like a minefield. It's like a minefield. People are setting off our insecurities, aren't they? Our feelings we misunderstand due to our own vulnerability. Even someone may be trying to help us or do something nice, but we misinterpret it. At the moment, we are like a gaping wound, aren't we? Due to our very vulnerable and untamed minds, I would say. So in that situation, yeah, everything is fraught with difficulty. Any connection with others is fraught with difficulty. But the more calm, at ease we are, and patient and all the rest of it, the less uptight we are with others and with our own mind, our own thoughts, and all the rest of the stuff that comes up, the happier we'll be. And the more we can provide, a good, what should we say? What's the word? A sounding board, we'll be able to provide a better mirror for others, with whom we are in contact, whether it be at the office or at home, You have to be very skillful. You have to be very skillful. You have to also have to have patience, great patience, and a calm mind, not take everything so personally or seriously. So someone says something we don't like, we immediately, oh, why did you say that to me, blah, blah, blah. And then, it can lead to a divorce even. But if we just relax and think, okay, make use of the other reasonings we have already used in this text, like that overall one, which is so useful, that we have to take it for granted that everybody is sick. Everybody is sick, including myself, mentally, I mean. So let us not expect people to behave reasonably all the time. It is impossible. Impossible. So treat the other person as you would someone who is a sick person. How would you treat a sick person? You would take care of them. You would, give them medicine and hot water bottles and, electrolytes and whatever else they need to get well. The last thing we do is get angry with a sick person. But of course, it's easier said than done. Much easier said than done. But yeah, the whole point of being a bodhisattva is that in all one's relationships, whether one is a married bodhisattva or a celibate bodhisattva or whatever, all the relationships a bodhisattva engages in become healing for others because of what bodhisattva means, because of the great compassion and so forth. But of course, most relationships in the world, I would imagine, are to some extent toxic, to use a much overused modern word. I mean, look at the collective relationships between parties, between countries. You can't get more toxic than what's going on. People supplying missiles to other countries to, batter houses which have, men, women, and children who are kind of innocent, who are not combatants. Talk about toxic relationships. Goodness me. That's why Shantideva prays in his dedication chapter or somewhere that may all fighting between people, fighting with weapons, become a playful exchange of flowers. Very nice. But of course, it's not going to happen in a hurry. If you send that verse to Zelensky and Putin, they're not going to be impressed, right now. people, or to the people on the Tamang Arunachal border. It'd be very nice if Indian and Chinese soldiers were to exchange flowers. But right now, just recently, they're beating each other up with sticks. So what to do? But yeah, the Bodhisattva, that's why we have to quickly become like Bodhisattvas, so that all our relationships become healing, beneficial for others, which is so needed, right? Yeah, so we're the ones, a father, mother, bachelor, monk, nun, statesman, shopkeeper, garbage removal person, everything. Our connections with others in any way becomes beneficial. Because if one is really doing this properly, as the previous chapter said, enthusiasm is taking joy in what is wholesome. So we will always be joyful as bodhisattvas, engaging in benefit, because that's what makes them joyful. They're trained to be joyful when they are benefiting others, and they are trained to be patient, to accept the unreasonable behavior of others, etc., etc. And the weather being not so good when one wanted it to be better, everything the bodhisattva can cope with. Nothing becomes a major obstacle to the journey towards Buddhahood. Sorry, long-winded answer to a simple question, but I think a very important question.
No, thank you, Kabirji.
You see, yeah, even the person in solitary retreat with the Mahayana motivation, they are in a relationship with the world. It's just they're not acting it out right then in the way we think relationships should be acted out, in speaking and talking and all the rest of it. But the person in retreat, sincerely praying for the benefit of the world and training their mind to be a benefit for others, that person is in relationship, right? Very amazing relationship with the world, I think. But without opening their mouth or being seen for now in the marketplace. They are training to be a tremendous benefit to the world in relationship, because we can't help being related. The person in retreat is related to the person who is providing them food, Most people in retreat have to eat something, and someone is bringing it up the mountain for them or cooking it for them, or even if they allow themselves to go down into the market once a month or something to buy food, then there you are. You're related with the shopkeeper, with all the people who, brought the food there, etc. The farmers. So we cannot give up relationship, as you know, but the question is, what kind of relationship? Is it exploitative? What is it?
Yeah.
Is it selfish?
Yeah.
Selfishly motivated? And by the way, somebody asked a great teacher once, Kirti Sensa Rinpoche, when can I get married, this person asked, without any fear of attachment? And he said, don't worry about it, you're even a 7th, 8th level bodhisattva has a tiny tiny itsy witsy bit of attachment. Don't worry about it. Just do your best, So it's not as though we can get rid of attachment completely. It's just impossible for us until we achieve a very high level, But we do our best. And with these kind of teachings, if we study them and, try and put them into practice a little bit, we can be assured that our relationships will improve. Absolutely. Meaning that even if we are very difficult people, we have to relate to it, we'll be able to do it better and not become, suicidal or tear our hair out, We'll be able to cope. Anything else? One more question or comment before we finish? Mamta Kumari, Naveenji, Gaurav, Isar, Apurva. Vikramji, how was that? Were you totally bored by the session? I hope not. Are you still there? Vikramji, a new participant whom I didn't recognize.
Yeah, no, it was excellent, very interesting, and quite seemed quite logical. So
Logical. That's good. That's good. One doesn't want to be illogical with the modern scientific bent of people. Yeah, no, it's good to be logical. Although logic may not solve everything, but yeah, it's good. I'm glad you could see a thread in my meandering. Of course, Shantideva is anything but meandering. He links things together very well. And I hope you find a lot of enjoyment reading this text. You could read some of the early chapters, Vikramji, and benefit from slowly reading from chapter 1. And yeah, you might find that quite enjoyable when you can take time off from your dear wife and child and everything else. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I think we stop there. We'll have a session, I hope. Next session I'll be in Mumbai, but we'll have an evening session from Mumbai on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday, 6:30, same time. I'll give up the delights of Mumbai for an hour and a half in the evening, day after tomorrow. Yeah, I'll be on Marine Drive, thanks to a very good friend who's sponsoring a stay in a very nice hotel. So I should be in a very happy worldly state of mind. So hopefully Shantideva will bring me back to Earth.
When you'd be in Bodh Gaya?
Bodh Gaya not till 22nd of.
I am reaching there on 27th.
Very good. See you there, but I'll see you on Zoom. See you on Zoom before then, I think. Let's dedicate that our session together was not a waste of time, but may be of benefit to us so that we can develop more wisdom, compassion, can see the shortcomings of being attached to yeah, the worldly life, ordinary worldly life of aversion and attachment, and see how and develop some weariness towards that, realizing that that's an essential foundation for developing the wisdom we need to enhance our compassion and our ability to help ourselves and others. Meanwhile, may the teachings remain for a very long time. May we never be separated from the teachings and authentic teachers. May all the great teachers have long and healthy lives. May all their holy wishes be fulfilled. Then we're also dedicating for Sergio Scapanini. We're asked to dedicate for him by our Tushita director. He's having an operation day after tomorrow. And we're also praying for those who have passed away recently, like Bag, Deepthi, for Suresh Jindal, and all the other beings who are sick and ill and afraid and in conflict situations of all kinds. May they find a relief from their pain. Yeah. Okay, so thank you all very much and see some of you again, I hope, on Thursday evening, where we'll continue with this marvelous chapter. Good night. And
thank you, Kabirji.
Thank you, Kabirji. Thank you, everyone.